Behind the history of Southeast Asia lies a dark story that still resonates today. A leader named Pol Pot led Cambodia into a time of bloodshed and suffering. With his radical ideology, he attempted to create a new society, but what resulted was a human tragedy. This is the story of Pol Pot, Cambodia's great tragedy. Pol Pot was born Saloth Sar in 1925 in Cambodia. He came from a family of ordinary farmers, but later had the opportunity to study in France. There, he became acquainted with communist ideology and was inspired by the idea of revolution. Upon his return to Cambodia, Pol Pot joined the local communist movement and gradually rose to leadership. By the 1960s, he was a key figure in the Cambodian Communist Party. With his radical ideas, Pol Pot wanted to transform Cambodia into a classless state where everyone worked as farmers. In 1975, after a long war, Pol Pot's group, known as the Khmer Rouge, captured the capital, Phnom Penh. Many initially welcomed them, hoping for peace after the civil war. However, this victory was the beginning of tragedy. Pol Pot immediately ordered a mass evacuation. Cities were emptied, and millions of people were forced to move to the countryside to work as farm laborers. Urban life, schools, and even hospitals were destroyed. Pol Pot believed that only by eliminating modernity could Cambodia return to its Year Zero glory. Under the Khmer Rouge, life for the Cambodian people changed drastically. Everyone was forced to work in the fields for long hours, with food very limited, and under strict military surveillance. Money, schools, and religion were abolished. Anyone perceived as rebellious, educated, or even simply wearing glasses was considered an enemy. Thousands were imprisoned without trial, many tortured to death. This harsh system kept the people living in fear. Pol Pot's dream of creating an equal society turned into brutal repression. Pol Pot's policies led to one of the worst genocides of the 20th century. From 1975 to 1979, an estimated 2 million people died, nearly a quarter of Cambodia's population at the time. They died from starvation, forced labor, disease, and execution. One of the most infamous sites was Camp S21 Tuol Sleng, a prison-turned-torture center. The victims' bodies were dumped in killing fields. This tragedy left deep wounds that are still felt for generations to come. In late 1978, Vietnam launched an invasion of Cambodia following border raids by the Khmer Rouge. The Pol Pot regime quickly collapsed in January 1979. Pol Pot fled into the jungle and continued to lead a guerrilla movement for years, though his influence steadily weakened. Finally, he was captured by his own group in 1997 and placed under house arrest. A year later, in 1998, Pol Pot died, never having been properly tried for his crimes. The Pol Pot tragedy left a deep historical scar on Cambodia. Millions of families lost their lives, and generations grew up traumatized. The international community has called this tragedy one of the greatest genocides of the 20th century. Today, the Tuol Sleng Museum and the killing fields serve as reminders of the horrific nature of that time. Pol Pot is remembered not as a hero, but as a dictator who destroyed his own people. His story serves as a bitter lesson that absolute power and extreme ideology should never again sacrifice millions of lives. Pol Pot may be gone, but the tragedy he left behind will forever be a dark chapter in world history. Cambodia has recovered, but the memory of that suffering will continue to remind us that an ideology without humanity only leads to destruction.